here at MCEC, which stands for Muskegon Community Education Center, the place where the center of your child's education is magnified in a collaborating community. Our focus here at MCEC is community involvement, careers, social emotional learning, and nutrition. What's up, PK? What or who do we have on the agenda today, fam?
Well, we're blessed and highly favored because we have Dr. Pamela Smith from our very own Muskegon Community College, an organization, an institution that's been growing and growing in its influence and its ability to offer education to all students, all kids, all people, all adults in Muskegon County and the state, really, and even out of state. And we've been trying to make sure that we're doing our best part to show all of the ways, all of the means, all the avenues and pathways that young people can pursue to get where they would like to go, to get where their dreams come true. So I'll hand it back to you, Chauncey, if you'd like to introduce Dr. Smith, and then we can be underway.
Okay, I've been knowing Dr. Smith for a long time. Her, is it your brother, your nephew, Jelon?
Jelon and A.V. brothers.
Right. Yep. Those two, yep. So I've been knowing you a long time, and I've seen her work with Pathfinders, work in the community. And then I met David Stradal, and he was like, yeah, I got a professor that teach entrepreneurship. I'm like, who? Dr. Smith. I'm like, Dr. Smith. I always knew you was Pam. So what Dr. Smith did last year, we did our partnership agreement for our Flex Days. Dr. Smith came in probably how many times with our students? Like 9 times?
I think more like 5 before the pandemic hit. Yeah.
That's right. Yep. It was set up for 9, but we had five great experiences where students came down, filled my small little office, and she taught them entrepreneurship. And I'm gonna share my screen later on before we end with you teaching our group, because it was a beautiful experience for our kids. And now we're growing our programming where this summer you're gonna be teaching 20 of them entrepreneurship in our program. So it's great having you aboard as one of our partners, but also the things you're doing in the community. It's just gracefully having you on the show today. And I guess I'll ask my question first.
Yeah.
So for you, Dr. Pam, from this area, Muskegon Heights, working as a professor at a university, living in other spaces, what were we call it happenstance, what were the events or the event that was pivotal in your development to strive for entrepreneurship in business and in education? What was it? What was, like, is it one event, or is it something that just started this domino effect for you to be the entrepreneur that you are and connecting students and adults to these concepts?
Well, thank you for having me here today, guys. This is a great opportunity. I am honored to be here. And so, yes, I'm really happy to have this collaboration with Muskegon Public Schools and MCEC specifically. So, well, as I think back to, I came from a family of 8, mother, father, and 6 children. 4 girls, booked in with 2 guys, 2 brothers on either end. So you can imagine that was quite an experience for my brothers, having all those sisters. So they still talk about it today. Anyway, so what was pivotal? Anyway, what was it? I think during the time that I came of age, and I'm happy to say that I am a native of Muskegon Heights, grew up in Muskegon Heights. And prior to getting my education locally, after graduating, I went to MCC. I really believe in the 2-year college experience. I think that's very important. Just not from the cost perspective, but I think it gives you a foundation when you don't know what you want to do. And then I went on to Michigan schools for my undergraduate and graduate degree from Wayne State and Ferris, respectively. Anyway, I grew up during a time when the majority of families in Muskegon and Muskegon Heights were 2 parents. You had a mother, father, and the family. Family was pretty large. 4 was a small family. 10 was a large family. 10 and above was large. So having that two-parent household made a big difference. Now, I'm not saying that that's the only way that, or because we know today that we have a lot of single parents who are very successful in raising their children, whether it's a male lead in the family or female lead. But I'm just saying, during the time that I came, having that household where both parents may have been working, one parent at home, the other working, it just made a difference. We always said that my mom worked, came home, had dinner on the table, we sat down as a family. My father worked at the paper mill before he became an entrepreneur, and he worked, we thought 24/7, because he was always at work. And but he would come home at dinner time and stay to help us with homework before he'd go back to work. And so that had a big impact on me. And as a family, we really shared, my parents shared with us what they were doing. And so I have a funny story to tell about when my father decided to become an entrepreneur. He really wanted to become he wanted to sell real estate. He wanted to become a realtor. And every week he would go, every month, about once a month, he'd go to the state to take the realtor exam. And every time he went, he would fail.
Wow.
Because he didn't take time to study. He just thought, I know this. So he just went, you know? He was a high school grad and everything, and he just came up. He was a worker. So he was self-taught, but he failed every time. So the last time he failed, after 3 times, the lady said, well, you can open a business. And she said, when we can give you the license right here. He decided right there on the spot to open the furniture store. And he got a license, completed the license. He said, well, what should I name it? And she says, well, most people name their business after themselves. And his nickname was Smitty. And so he named the business Smitty's Furniture. Came home, walked into the house and told my mom, called everybody into one room and said, okay, you can quit now. She wanted to quit her job anyway. He said, you can quit now. We're opening a furniture store. That was it. They knew nothing about the furniture business, but they were blue collar, hardworking people. So they taught themselves the furniture business, and they were in business for 25 years, very, very successful. And so it was a family affair, though.
All right, my next question. Did you work in a furniture store?
Yes, we were all expected to work there. And prior to my graduating, I worked in 2 places. I worked in the old 5 and Dime store in Muskegon Heights. You remember there was a Woolworths and a DNC, and I worked at DNC. That was my first job. Then I worked in my parents' business as well. Whenever they went out of town, they left my older brother and myself in charge.
How old were you?
I was like 17.
Okay.
Yep, I was like about 17 when that happened. And 2 things that they said: always open on time. Their hours were 9:30 to 5:30, 5 days a week, or 6, I'm sorry, always open on time. And someone had to always be there. So it was either myself or my brother or one of my sisters. We just couldn't leave. We had to serve the customers. We had to be there. Consistency. They believed in customer service. And I think that's why people still, when you hear the name today, people still respect them, because they were all about customer service. And so, yeah, I went to furniture shows with them. When they had to go to buy furniture, I attended those shows with them. And they also recognized when the furniture industry was declining, they did things to extend their business. So my dad learned to lay carpet and flooring, so he became Smitty's Furniture and Carpeting.
Okay.
And so they did all of these things to extend their business when times got tough. So yeah.
Okay. So and that helped you working in those spaces. That's helped you make a decision.
Well, yeah, and also what happened was when I was in high school, you could major in college prep, you could get a general degree, or you could get a commercial or business degree. And I always focused on business.
Because of your parents?
No, I just, for some reason, I just had a connection. I made that decision before they even went in business, that I wanted to focus on business versus college prep. So I knew everything. I remember I started typing and took a college typing class at Baker College when I was like 15 years old in the summer. So though I don't know why I always had an interest in business. By the time I graduated, remember, there was no training in business way back then. You couldn't go to college until around 1970, maybe 69. 68, 69, could you even major in business? And I decided, it broke my dad's heart. He wanted me to be something like a lawyer or something. But he said, okay, if that's what you want to do. He couldn't believe I wanted to go into business as a major. But that's how I decided. What I was exposed to in high school and what my parents exposed me to made the decision for me.
Okay, that's a start.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
First off, I want to say thank you for sharing your family, just that insight into your family history. I can't believe, I don't know many people who would go and fail a test 3 times and not just walk away or something, but instead your father said with that opportunity, well, I'll give this a try. So now with all of your training, your education, your experience, plus being your father's daughter, when you look back, what are some of the components you see through your professional eyeglasses or your professional lens that he used or utilized to make his business both successful, but also creating a legacy for his children?
Well, I think even though he wasn't, well, 2 things. My mom did return to community college and was awarded an associate's degree. So that was one of their decisions. Both of them couldn't go back to school, but one could. So they decided that she would go back to school, and she did the business side of it, in terms of running the office work, everything. That was what she did. And he didn't return to school, but when he was at the paper mill, SD Warren, he was promoted to supervisor. And SD Warren sent him to MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. They sent all of their supervisors there for supervisory training, because remember, he was an instrument technician prior to becoming a supervisor. So people don't realize how technical the paper mill was. And he gravitated toward math and that sort of thing. And so even though he only had a high school education, he was very math literate. So he got a lot of his training, leadership training, from MIT. And keep in mind, that was a Black man in the 60s with no degree at MIT for supervisory training. So So that was part of, so he was trained and he believed in training, he believed in education, and secondly, he was a people person. He didn't meet a stranger. So in learning the business, the furniture business, people didn't realize that all that furniture you see in a furniture store, it has to be paid for before it's dropped off. So you've got to give them a check at the door before they will drop off the furniture. And so where did he learn a lot of this from? He learned it from his delivery guys that came to the back door. They told him about furniture shows. They told him about the Chicago merchant mart to go to. So he didn't meet strangers, and he listened. So he just learned, and that's what they did. That's what he and my mom did. They were avid learners, and they just met people and talked to people, and that's how they grew, became the business people they are.
So his abilities, which he probably could have done marvelously well in college, he applied them differently. He created networks. He listened to the people around him.
Yes.
And he connected with people, and he never met a stranger.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I tell my students all the time that the fact of the matter is, I just told some students this last week, you do not have to have a degree to be a successful entrepreneur, but you have to be a continuous learner. You have to be a continuous learner. So, for example, I had a young man who just spoke to my class last week. His name is Eric Lachey. And Eric Lachey went to Michigan State. He started his business. Took pictures at weddings. That's what he did. He worked at Wendy's, took pictures at weddings, and people didn't want to pay him. So they want to give him stuff in trade. And so he bought all of his equipment. Finally, when he was at Michigan State, he was in class with instructors that had not been entrepreneurs. But he was out there practicing. So he lost interest in the classroom setting. But he continued to learn, much like my dad, and listen. And so today, he dropped out of Michigan State. Today at 27, 28, he has a full-blown visual marketing business that he helps to develop ads for companies like Spectrum Health is one of his business.
I was going to cut you off.
Yeah.
We had him when we went to the Fab Lab last year on that Saturday where all our staff members went, and it's called Carbon. It's
Carbon.
Carbon.
Yep.
I remember his story. I was like, I know that guy. He had braids, he had glasses, he had colorful.
Yeah.
He had his own office. And like you said, he was in the business course. And he asked the business people, do you got your own business? They was like, no, we just teach business classes. He was like, why am I learning from you? So he's worked for Nike, EA Sports.
Yes.
I mean, his portfolio is crazy.
Yes. And he's been very, and the thing about him is that he had no money. He didn't need money to start up, because guess what? He had already bought all this equipment, photography equipment, etc. And he and his buddies would sit in a place like the coffee shops. He'd go to a coffee shop in Grand Rapids, and they'd sit there and they'd map out the work they were going to do. And then pretty soon, the owner of the coffee shop said, it was kind of like a Starbucks. He says, well, why don't you do an ad for me? So that was one of his first accounts. And people started seeing it, word of mouth. Now he owns he just moved into his first building in Grand Rapids. He got a truck on trade, and he just rented a building in New York City. And that's after 7 years. And his wife, they married 2 years ago, and she's in the business with him. And all of their employees are on contract. So they don't have any, they don't have to pay a weekly paycheck to employees.
Two interesting examples, Dr. Pam.
Yes.
Your dad, who clearly had a drive and a passion to be his own man, to be in control of his own destiny. Then Eric Lachey, who is in a similar boat, but also has that artistic gift.
Yes.
That's so when if students were to take your entrepreneurial course, how do you help them with their passion or with their abilities? How do you help them turn that into dollars and cents?
Well, what I do is first I ask, and usually around 20, 25 students sign up for the class. And the first thing that I ask is, what is your interest? How many of you have already begun pursuing entrepreneurship? And probably about half the class has already done something, and they already have an interest. But I had a young man tell me this two instances of the impact that you can have is one young man said to me in class last week, he said, I can't miss, I might miss any other class, but I'm not gonna miss entrepreneurship. And then from Chauncey's class last spring, a young woman was in the class, and I could tell she was just really sharp, you know. And right after the pandemic started, I pulled up to a drive-through at Lee's Chicken, and this young woman served me, and she looked at me and she says, I know you. And she says, I'm in your entrepreneur class with Mr. Chauncey. And she says, and that's the only class I miss. So what I do is right from the beginning, I tell them a story about acres of diamonds and how a man went searching for diamonds because everybody else said there were great diamonds out there. And he left his property and went searching and never found them. Sold his property, went searching, got disgusted because he never found those diamonds that everybody talked about. He jumped into the lake and killed himself, despondent. A few months later, the person that bought his property found very valuable diamonds on his property. And so I make that analogy that you can create diamonds out of anything, but know what your interest is. And you can combine that interest with something you enjoy doing, and you will be successful. And that kind of hooks them, and they stay engaged. And yeah, that's kind of how I try to.
That's fascinating to me, Dr. Pam, because Chauncey, Tom, Brent, and I talk about we have to help kids dream a little bit, to identify a dream, to work towards a dream. It can't be my dream because I'm old. It has to be something that holds onto their passion. So in some ways, an entrepreneurial course, your certificate path, is almost like identifying, structuring, and spiraling a staircase to an individual's dream.
Absolutely. And what the students end up doing, they have two things to do at the end of the term. They have to choose a business idea. And I let them know that this may not be your ultimate business idea. You may shift it along the way. You may change, but you have to make a choice. And then once you make that choice, then you've got to write a feasibility study or a report based on all of the components that we discussed during the how to raise money, how to market your business, how to choose your business, laundry list of things. You have to write that report. At the end, you have to say, this business is feasible, and I see myself starting this business within a year, 2 years, 5 years. Then you have to take two components of that report, and you have to present it to the class. It can be whatever you like. It can be the marketing piece. It can be the financial piece, how you're going to raise your money. You name it, you choose. And some of their presentations are phenomenal. They really are.
So what I'm hearing is kids or young people through going through your certificate program, for example, can identify, structure, and really begin to articulate their dream, but they don't have to be sitting on bags of money. They don't have to come from wealth, but they could start their own legacy by following the steps. And let's face it, going to MCC is virtually free.
Yes.
So kids could virtually have a dream and be able to walk that dream out within a business plan after going through your course and have a legitimate business in who knows how, weeks, months, I'm not trying to trivialize that building the business, but they could really open a business having taken your coursework.
Yep, they can open a business, or they could have already had a business, and my course simply expands the idea that they've already been working on. I have women young women who maybe have been designing jewelry. I have a young African American woman in the class last year. She was into makeup, and she had created a brand. And when she did her presentation, her classmates were blown away. They were like, well, you're so good at this already. So a lot of them already they've already done some assessments of what they like, what they do best, and they expand on that. Others, the class is the foundation for getting started.
Do you feel like with your expertise and the classes you're teaching have taught, that you're creating like almost like the network, like the delivery men for your father? Do you feel like a network's being created through your programming to support these young entrepreneurs?
Absolutely, because they move on, because there are three things that you can do. You can get a certificate, you can move on and get an associate's degree, or you can move on and combine your interest in entrepreneurship with business in general and get a maybe major in marketing and go on for a bachelor's degree at Ferris like I did, or wherever. So it's a great foundation. It's a foundational course. It's the first course, and they earn 1 credit for this class. And having had it in high school, they have already begun building up those credits, and it's free to them. They don't have to pay anything for it. So I think it's very important, and it also gives them kind of like they already have a mentor in Chauncey. Okay. They're with someone that they see every day, that they are able to trust and build up that relationship. And so when they come to me and begin their journey, their college journey, all of a sudden they can kind of see how this goal is going to get them to an end result.
Which is exciting, because
Yeah.
if I want to develop a new clothing line or open some kind of innovative thing, I personally would not want to take 100 English, math, social studies, and science courses. I mean, I know that they're important, but we have so many young people who have such strong minds. And let's face it, they know better than any of us sitting here what young people want. And so I think sometimes having that framework is huge. I know, guys, I've stolen Dr. Pam. So what questions might you guys have for Dr. Pam before I just take over and become selfish?
I got one more.
Yes.
I was looking online and just checking some things out, and I saw an article, and it said New York News Times, and it's talking about Muskegon history of Black management emphasizes entrepreneurial genes. And I was like, I seen an article that you are in, and it's talking about the 50 plus years and the 2,000 businesses that are in Muskegon, but the businesses that generated the entrepreneurial spirit of African Americans and the things that's being done at an exhibit at MCC coming up on is that the February 24th?
Yeah, actually, it's the exhibit is at Muskegon Heritage Museum, and it will be a permanent display. And what happened is back in about 3 years ago, it was around the time that Martin Luther King 50 years, you know, they were celebrating the March on Washington and that. And I said, gee, you know, I like to focus on 50 years of Black entrepreneurship. And my parents opened their business in 68, 67, 68. So I saw an article about the Heritage Museum, and that museum is a business industry museum right here in our community. It's across the street from the big apartment building downtown. What is it?
The Amazon building, Dr.
Amazon, yes, it's right across the street from the Amazon. And so I walked after reading that article, and I said, you know, all these companies, Consumers Powers, SD Warren, all of these businesses were on display in this museum. So I walked in there one day, and I met a volunteer director, Ann Dake. And I asked her, I said, can you show me around? I didn't know this museum existed. And she did. But there was no examples of African-American businesses at all represented. And I told her, this is my idea. I like to have a display of African-American businesses because beginning in the 40s and 50s, there was what we call segregation. And in Muskegon, as in many communities, all communities, Black and white, were segregated. Blacks lived on one side of town, whites lived on the other side of town, and they never met except for maybe at school. So, and I knew that in the African-American community in Muskegon and Muskegon Heights, that we had our own businesses, we had our own dry cleaners, we had our own milk delivery men, we had our own funeral home, we had our own, you name it, our entire community, all the services that we needed existed right in our community. So I wanted to tell that story. And she said, I've been wanting to do that for a long time, and I just never had a person to connect to. So myself and Andrew Sims, the husband of the former mayor of Muskegon Heights, Kim Sims, he and I hooked up, and we started working on it. And it took us about 2 years to bring it to fruition. And we would have kicked it off. The display, it's called 50 Years of Black Entrepreneurship, 1968 to 2018. It runs in the family. Why did we call it runs in the family? Because so many African-American owned businesses have a family connection, as I just described my dad's business. And so we started it. And of course, the pandemic, there are just a lot of things, even before the pandemic. But what I did is I met with a lot of entrepreneurs who had businesses in the past, who had current businesses, and they began to tell their stories. And as they told their stories, we began to come up with an idea for this permanent display at the Muskegon Heritage Museum. And so what we will have is there'll be 5 businesses featured, my parents' business among them, and Patterson's Drugstore, 103.7 The Beat, Urban Apparel, a contractor by the name of Lawrence Baker and his wife owned a hair salon. And maybe there's one more I'm forgetting, but they will all be featured. And then there's a wall, an honorary wall, a wall of fame, and we'll have over 100 businesses featured. Black businesses that have been in business for at least 10 years. So it's exciting, yes.
It's unfortunate that we're operating within a whole pandemic, because seeing something like that, I think, is a pretty big deal. And what I appreciate, Dr. Pam, is on the show, we try to provide an alternative narrative to what kids or people will see in their news feeds on social media and what they'll see within CNN or Fox News or whatever they watch. But what you brought up should be year-long viewing for people who reside in Muskegon County, right? Because there is a whole sector of business, of entrepreneurs, of people generating revenue, of people contributing huge tax dollars. And not very little of that, not any of it was recognized until you and Mr. Sims decided this has got to change at the Muskegon Heritage Museum. So we can talk about cutting down trees all day. We can talk about sawmills all day, but then our memory sort of glitches from Charles H. Hackley in the Foundries to 2020. So that's huge for putting together the alternative narrative,
yes,
the rest of the story, if you will.
It's very exciting because it's permanent, and we can add to the display as the years go on. It's just not static. We can add to it, and it tells a story, because if it hadn't been for all of those individuals that came before us, we wouldn't be here today. And yes, the African American community entrepreneurs were hit with recessions, and they were knocked down, and they weren't always able to get funding for their businesses, but they continued to pursue, and that's what's exciting about it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Gentlemen, are there other questions you'd like to ask Dr. Pam? Because I've got one in my pocket, but I wanted to.
I wanted to share my screen with some stuff that she did
okay.
last year for everybody to see. Like Paul said, is the stake is in pictures is 1,000 words. That's all I can say. So
I didn't know he was taking these pictures, I promise you.
That's how Chauncey is, Dr. Pam.
Yes, I am. So let's see what we got. So this is a picture that I have. Can everybody see that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So that's Dr. Pam working with the students.
Mm-hmm.
That students at hand building the task.
Yes.
I can't even remember the lesson, but
they were charged to build the tallest freestanding structure, and they had to work as a team to do that.
What were the rules surrounding that concept?
There was no rule. There were no rules at all, except the rule was that they couldn't talk, and they had to lay out a plan before they got started. So they had to draw a plan, and then they couldn't talk once it started. And they literally did it. That's a great class. They did some outstanding work in there.
The cool thing is, Dr. Pam, though, you gave them an opportunity to use their creativity, their imaginations, and to dream a thing into existence. I think too many times we don't give kids that opportunity. That's
right. And these were kids that probably had some baggage coming into the class, but yet once given the opportunity, they just came alive, and they were able to share and work together. And I think during the 5 classes that we had, I don't think maybe 2 or 3 missed, but for the most part, they attended that class.
Don't you kind of think, Dr. Pam, though, that we don't offer our kids enough opportunities to imagine and create and to dream? It seems like these days, and maybe I'm just being old, we package things up for kids and almost give them the answer before they can ask the question.
That's right. And we don't know what they already know. We don't give them credit for what they already know. Is what I found out in Chauncey's class in particular, and I've done the same class at Muskegon Heights Academy as well. And what I found out is once you give them the opportunity and you ask them some open-ended questions, they have the answers. They're not afraid to give you the answers or participate, but you need to extend that confidence to them.
And that's the cool part about what you're doing at MCC, as well as some of the other programs, is it's allowing kids not to get high school part 2, which is more of the 4 core. It's giving them opportunities to pursue where they're passionate. And let's face it, most of us, unless we're making a whole lot of money, do what we do because we have a passion for it. The flip side is any young person in there, and could be many of them, could be the next set of eyes that sees where computing or the internet goes in the future, but they aren't given the opportunities in many cases to imagine. And that just...
And some of them are going to be rich. Some of them will become very rich, and some of them will make enough to just support their families. You know, like my dad was able to make enough money over 25 years to support his family, put 6 kids through college. You know, he used to always tell us, I'd be a rich man if I didn't have kids. You know? always. He'd be a rich man if he didn't have kids. So, and so, you know, yeah, we're going to get some Ford Motor Company type businesses out of there, but our communities need small business owners, don't we?
Yes, we do.
If it wasn't for small business owners, where would we be? So that's the foundation that we're built on in this country.
And don't you think, Dr. Pam, when we look outside our door and down our streets, there's a rich market out there for small and medium-sized businesses, and the pandemic has proven it.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why our government is supporting them during this pandemic, because they know if the small business owner isn't there, we lose that entire foundation. So, and I want our young people to know that that's something they can contribute to in an honest way.
Well, fellas, this is the last call for questions for Dr. Pam. I know she's got things she's got to do, but any last minute questions? Otherwise, I'll pull the one out of my pocket. Okay, I'll pull it out of.
You got one here?
Dr. Pam, we always, because we're really into this concept of neighborliness and community. So as you look over your esteemed career, who was there and in some way, shape, or form, who helped Pamela Smith become Dr. Pamela Smith and to be able to do all the things you do?
I actually have to say that I had a lot of, you can well imagine that my mom and dad played a big part in my life because they were always there to support. But I have to say that I had a number of mentors, and one was an instructor at MCC by the name of Harold Gelderlos. And Mr. Gelderlos was a business professor, a business instructor. And I was only going to go to school for 2 years, get a job, whatever. And he encouraged me to go on to 4-year institution, major in marketing, and got me involved in clubs, the marketing club, and different things. So I would have to say that, and he also became my first reference for my first professional job out of college. And when I returned here, I returned here about 10 years ago, and 2 years ago, I was named the Muskegon Community College, the their highest award was Distinguished Alumni. And he actually helped me to come up with my speech that I made to the graduating class of 2018. And he attended the reception that when I received the award. And so he had a great impact on me. As a result of that, I've mentored a lot of young people, but particularly here in Muskegon, I probably have about 7 or 8 people that I'm mentoring right now. So, and that was my dissertation from George Washington University was on formal mentoring of women of color. So yeah, he had a great impact on me.
Well, I just want to say we can't be more thankful for what all the work you're doing, the work you've done with us, but also for your words today, the concepts around listening, networking, being passionate, dreaming, working hard. This has just been, I hope it's as eye-opening for people who've been viewing as it is for all of us, because right in our own backyard is Dr. Pam, who can help you make your dreams come true. And I'm not being funny, I'm not being facetious, but that's what business is. And so I appreciate you, Dr. Pam. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Call me anytime.
We will do that.
Okay.
Sorry. Ooh-wee. Fellas. There it is. I mean, there it is. What more is there to say?
Nothing.
You got to unmute yourself, Chauncey.
I was intrigued by listening. When I was able to pull up the pictures and then go to New York Times talking about Muskegon, the African Americans. I mean, the pictures of her in there by herself with like 20 students, and they were coming. They came all 5 times, like you said. Everybody was looking like, I gotta get a class. I gotta go down Dr. Pam's class. Mr. Ellis remember that. Brent remember it last year. And they were in there. They were packed in there. And they were doing what she asked them to do. But it makes me appreciate people like that in the community. And that's what we talk about being in city of school and world of work. Like, give students the opportunity to be creative. And it really helped me work up an appetite for Brent's segment. I'm telling you, that's what it did, because I loved it. And I was able to, like, she didn't know I took those pictures, but that's motivation for anybody that's watching on the outside. I say school can be different. And at MCEC, school is different, but it's relevant and it's real.
Well, my take is, I know Brent's going to launch off here, but you know, a lot of people know a lot of people, but Dr. Pam is MCEC's friend. All right, Brent. The moment that I've been smelling for her.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we got our food, we got our local business that we're going to highlight today, and it's one that I've been wanting to do for a while, and I'm pretty excited about it. And anybody who likes a chicken wing, okay, you got to get you one of these. Okay, you got to get you one of these. All right, this is the illustrious Whammo, okay, located at Bob High Lanes. Now I'm telling you, oh my God, these are unreal. I haven't had one in so long. When I called and they were open and I called Joel, I'm like, you've got to get me some Whammos. These are unbelievable. So they're Cajun spiced. They fry them, they throw them in these paper bags, and they rattle them around until the deliciousness is spread throughout for your utter enjoyment. And so Bob High Lanes, located on Getty. Joel Ernball's the owner, huge supporter. Their family is a huge supporter of the school and things that are going on. They donate all the time. And I encourage you to head to Bob High and try one of these out. PK got the Whammos. What do you think?
Well, like I say on Facebook from time to time, most of my homies know that I have a thing for chicken wings. And I'll say, I usually expect sauce on wings. I expect Frank's, or I expect a little Crystal, right? But these wings are seasoned well enough that I could see myself in the summertime with a bottle of water and 2 bags of these between myself and my beautiful bride, going down to the beach and putting a chicken wing in and pulling out a bone and rinse, wash, repeat. That's what I see. What about you, Chauncey? What's your professional assessment?
I'm sitting up here, I could smell it. And then I was just like, okay. When I saw it, I said it was breaded. I said, okay, let's see how they taste. Like you said, Brent gave me just some ketchup. And I was like, man, what the sauce said? The ranch and the other stuff. In my mind, I was thinking that. So I said, man, let me just try them. You don't need nothing on them.
Oh,
You don't need nothing on them. And hey, I'll be on the high road, on the high lane. So on the high road, taking to the highway. What's that song? How's it go?
I'm on the highway. I'm gonna ride it.
Yeah. You gotta sing it the right way. You just speaking it.
I need to put my mouth on.
I'm going to the Bob High Lane. So you get these whammos. They're good, man. Got the fries. And I like coleslaw too. So I got a little sample coleslaw on the side.
Ooh, forgot about that.
Yeah.
You heard it here. Chauncey, like me, is a huge coleslaw fan, so I don't want to have anyone heat me
Yep.
for liking coleslaw. Tom, what did you get?
A patty melt. So I'm
Mm.
doing the patty melt minus the bread, and it is phenomenal. Awesome cheese, onions, mushrooms, good meat, and then also coleslaw. Chauncey, thanks for reminding me.
You're welcome.
Is it good, Tom?
It is good. It is good.
it ain't bad.
It ain't bad, for sure. Good stuff.
Well, the thing about these wings I like, Brent, is they aren't even really breaded. They're just fried and seasoned.
Well,
And that,
yeah, they're good. They
Yeah.
are.
man, I'll bet.
I'm-
Well, like if you go, do you bowl, Brent?
Oh, yeah.
So if you're
Yes.
going bowl a game, what's the over and under on what you and I could do in one game on whammo wings?
I could eat about 9 of these. I'm not gonna lie to you. There's 7 in a bag, and even once you get going, you're like, give me another bag of those. Give me another bag of those. And they got all kinds of other stuff too. They got burgers and shrimp and tenders and all kinds of stuff. But I never, ever go to Bob High without getting an order of the Cajun whammos. You can put ranch and blue cheese on it if you like. Lord knows I have on numerous occasions, but they are unbelievable. Now they do got kind of funky hours. 11:30 to 2 is lunch, and then they reopen for dinner. The kitchen reopens at 4 o'clock, and then obviously right now there's a 10 o'clock curfew, and so they can only go so late into the night. So even though businesses are open, it's so limited with capacity and stuff. Continue to order out if you can't go see them. These whammos are dynamite. They're located on Getty. I tell you what, I don't play around. I got 2 bags. I'm gonna smash them all. They are unbelievable.
So my moral compass sometimes doesn't spin true north. So I rely upon my network, my neighborhood, my community, you guys to help me keep my moral compass pointing northward. I got 2 bags of whammos, whammo squared. And the question is this: should I A, eat all of them, as Brent's suggesting, or should I B, leave the 1 bag sealed and bring them home and apply them to the air fryer and share them with Elizabeth and Madeline? A, I smash. B, I share with Elizabeth and Madeline. By show of hands, 1 is A, 1 finger is A, 2 fingers is B. All right, so on 3, you have to put up 1 finger or 2. 1 finger is I smash, 2 fingers is I share with my kids. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
You know why? Tell you why. Because you share with them, it'll start becoming the menu items. Hey, go get some of those bye wings. Later on.
See, Chauncey's a thinker. He's always thinking.
You do that long-term hustle, like how do I get more opportunities to have whammos?
Hey, we just had entrepreneurship doctor on our show. I've been working with them since 2014. I've been a fly on the wall to all the lessons. Hey, we're long term trying to get the whammo wings.
So what words we have for social emotional learning, Tom?
It's mind blowing that every time we have a guest on and they're talking about themselves and their experiences, it always comes back to the core of social emotional learning. And one of the big cores there is being self-aware and knowing yourself and not letting people and circumstances take you away from who you are and what you know. And we hear that over and over and over again from people that are beyond our realm. They're past 18, right? They're into their adult life. And I think Dr. Pam said it today. Anthony said it last week. Anthony Lambert said it weeks ago, like that once you decide to focus on you and who you are and what you know, and specifically what you've known for a long time, but you didn't believe about yourself, then things start to happen. And the more and more experiences we can bring, the more spaces we can create within the school and city of school and world of work and all those ideas for our teenagers that we work with to experience that, the better school experience is going to be. And maybe we'll be able to shave some years of learning off of their learning curve until they can get where they want to be. And that's what I'm excited to be about. That's why I'm excited for MCEC and what we're doing and where we're headed, because that's the type of space we want to create and not do social emotional learning as, you know, a video we watch every once in a while. Although the true success videos are great, but how do we embody that in who we are and what we do? And you know, our students get to see us all the time when they're back in the building, but they don't get to see the community people. And they haven't gotten to see the community people in the last year while we've not been able to be in the building. So it's a great way to showcase people here and then know that, you know, when we're back in the building and when people can come and visit and things are healthy and we can be safe and still have that community, that we're going to do it and that we're going to push that entrepreneurship, that business sense as the vehicle for learning across the board. So it's exciting.
Amen and amen and amen. And from what I hear tell, March 1, March 1st at 7:45, the doors open at MCEC for MCEC students at 7:45. Bring your mask. If you don't have one, we'll give you one. Make sure you go through the health protocols and the screeners before you come. We're looking forward to seeing you. Chauncey, take us away.
Right. Well, that's the end of our live hour. Thanks for tuning in to MCEC Fam Show, the place where the center of your child's education is magnified in a collaborating community. I had a song today, and it say, we got really teams, really big teams. We got a really big team.
All right, y'all.
Bye, everybody.